Hey guys, I'm going to go over the scientific method with you guys today, and we're going to be working on the sleeping pill worksheet. So I'm just going to read the worksheet to you guys first. It says, tens of millions of Americans have some form of sleep disorder. Many of these people experience great difficulty falling asleep, but there might be hope. Scientists at Bayer Drug Company claim to have created a sleeping pill that will help people fall asleep faster than those people who don't take the pill. Bayer wants you to set up an experiment to determine if the speed people fall asleep depends on whether or not someone takes the sleeping pill. Please answer the following questions in blue font. So remember that the hypothesis always goes back to the claim. So we find the claim right in the middle of the paragraph. It says that scientists at Bayer Drug Company claim to have created a sleeping pill that will help people fall asleep faster than those people who don't take the pill. So their claim is kind of like their guess as to the answer to the question. So the question would be, does the pill work in helping people fall asleep faster? They're saying that it does, right? But we always phrase our hypothesis as an if-then statement. The reason we do that is because an if-then statement includes the independent variable and the dependent variable in it. So we're just going to go ahead and write that now. So the hypothesis is an if-then statement would be if people take the drug or the sleeping pill, then they will fall asleep faster. Okay, and we just found the information right from the text and we put it into an if-then statement. Of course, we have to answer in blue font. So right there, we have the independent and dependent variable, right? The if part of the statement would be the independent variable. So that's the thing that the researcher is manipulating. So the researcher is introducing a new sleeping pill. So the new sleeping pill is the independent variable. And the then part, the second part of it, whether people or not people fall asleep faster, that is the dependent variable. That is what you're measuring as a result. All right, so we're going to move on to question B. They're asking us, what is a control group? And this is a general question, right? They're not asking for what a control group is in this experiment. They're just asking for a definition of control group. So a control group is a group of test subjects in the experiment that do not receive the independent variable. Or in parentheses, you could say the treatment if it helps you understand it better. Okay, so they're a group of test subjects that you're just going to use as a comparison group. Okay, you don't really do anything to them, but they're there just to compare them to the group that you are changing. So the group that you don't change. So what will be the control group in this experiment? It's going to be a group of people who don't receive the sleeping pill. Okay, make sure you guys are answering on your own sheets. What is an experimental group? So we have another general question. So an experimental group in general is the opposite of a control group. So if a control group does not receive the independent variable, you leave them alone, right? You don't change them. And the experimental group is a group that you do change. So it's the group of test subjects that do receive the independent variable. Or in this case, it's treatment, right? So what will be the experimental group in this experiment? Again, we can make it the opposite of the control group. It's going to be a group of people in the experiment that receive. So remember, the independent variable is whatever is new, whatever the researcher is introducing. So that would be the sleeping pill. That is the thing that we are testing and we are changing, right? Change that to blue. So what is an independent variable? Well, we kind of already answered that one. It is the variable in the experiment that the researcher manipulates or changes. So you could also call it the new thing in the experiment. And what will it be in this experiment? It's going to be the new sleeping pill. What is a dependent variable? It's not the opposite of an independent variable, okay? So don't get confused by that. A dependent variable is the variable that you measure. And remember, vary means to change, so a variable is something that changes. So it's the thing that changes as a result, okay, of you giving or you treating with the independent variable, okay? So it's the variable that the researcher, or the variable that measures the results of the experiment. What is the dependent variable in this experiment? It would be, we go back to our example, what are we trying to measure as our results? It's that they will fall asleep faster, right? But that's not entirely measurable, so we're going to say the amount of time that it would take for people to fall asleep. So the amount of time it takes people in the experiment to fall asleep. So they're going to compare the time it takes for the people who get the sleeping pill to fall asleep to the people who don't get the sleeping pill, right? In order for us to see that it works, we'd have to see that the people who in the experimental group fell asleep faster. All right, so list 5 constants in this experiment. So constants, even though we don't have a question about the definition, you do have to know what they are. Constants are anything in the experiment that you want to control. So they're just conditions that you want to keep the same. So in this case, we want to give everyone the same amount of sleeping pill. So the same number of pills. Because if you give somebody more than one pill, then that's not going to give you all the same results, right? It could affect your results. You also want probably the people's ages to be the same, because older people might have more trouble falling asleep than younger people. Let's change that to blue. Probably want to test it on people that have the same type of sleep disorder, because maybe some people have sleep apnea, maybe some people have like some sort of hysteria where they wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares. So the type of sleep disorder that people have should factor in. Maybe the conditions in the room that the people are sleeping in, so the environment that people sleep in. Or you could also say like the type of bed they're sleeping in, because maybe some people are sleeping in more uncomfortable beds than others. Okay, and you can come up with, and it doesn't have to be these examples, but basically anything that could affect people's sleep other than whether they get a sleeping pill or not is something that you'd want to control and think about in your experiment. So what are two things that the scientists at Bayer Drug Company could do to improve the accuracy of the experiment? So anytime you want to improve an experiment, there's 2 ways that you can do that. You can add more test subjects to it. So if we're only testing on 10 people, it's not going to be as good as if we're testing on 100. And the last thing is you can repeat the experiment. All right, and we're done. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to ask us in class. Make sure that you correct any mistakes you made on your papers.